foreign policy during the progressive years reflects many of the forces that are motivating domestic reform. But more than that, it mirrors the nation's new sense of itself as a world power, protecting the open door in Asia, intervening in the Dominican Republic, and building a canal across a narrow stretch of land in Central America.
When the Civil War came to an end, our foreign policy makers, especially the imperialists among them, like William Henry Seward, talked publicly about the importance of having an Isthmian canal at some point in America's future. Now, Seward didn't know where the canal would be built. The point was that we needed a canal for commercial and military reasons.
Roosevelt sends his Secretary of State, John Hay, to negotiate an agreement with Colombian diplomats in Washington that would allow construction of a canal to begin without delay.
He offered $10 million and a $250,000 gold annuity to the Colombian government. Now, our Senate was ready to accept the canal treaty based on these terms, but the Colombian Senate, no. They weren't ready to part with Panama. So when Colombia turned down our offer to buy Canal Zone, then we took advantage of a movement in Panama underway for independence.
Roosevelt finds a willing ally in Philippe Bunau-Varilla, chief engineer of a failed French project in the same area.
The de Lesseps Company had, after the completion of the Suez Canal, undertaken the building of a canal in Panama, but it ran out of money. So Bunau-Varilla, being a very enterprising and resourceful businessman, involved himself in Panamanian affairs. He began working with those revolutionaries in Panama who wanted to sever ties with Colombia. And they worked out a schedule for this revolution that was to occur on November 3rd of 1903. And as coincidence would have it, we just happened to have an American battleship off the coast of the Isthmus. And we used our battleship to make certain that when the rebellion broke out, that Colombia could not land its troops on the Isthmus. Then we negotiated the Hay-Bunau-Varilla Treaty. This is 1903. And that treaty provided for the payment of a certain sum of money to Panama, and in return the United States would receive a strip of land 5 miles on both sides of the prospective canal route. This would be the Canal Zone, deeded to the United States in perpetuity. Well, work on the canal began the following year in 1904, and this incredible engineering feat was completed 10 years later. Woodrow Wilson, before he left office in 1921, perhaps seized with a bit of American guilt, we ended up giving Colombia $25 million in 1921 in payment for the canal. Now, it wasn't worded quite that way, but that's what this was. It was conscience money.
There is this sense that this is not just an American project. It's something that all of humankind can be proud of. It's designed to benefit everybody. And that idea is actually put to the test in 1913, I believe, when the canal is on the verge of opening, and we have to decide, well, how are we going to set the tolls? Are Americans going to get preference? And I think initially the inclination was that Americans would indeed pay a lower rate, and then Woodrow Wilson, as president, says, well, you know, that's not really the idea behind the canal. The idea is that it is something from which everyone should benefit. So the end result then, with some intricate politics in the background, is that everybody will pay the same rate.